Hi, broski.
Hey,
Good early morning.
I can't turn on my video, by the way.
Cannot. All right. So we are live. What's up, Matt? Hello, greatest human beings. Thanks, man. That means a lot coming from you.
Mhm.
All right,
You
got to
hear me?
tell you, for 3 in the morning, you are looking sprightly.
I don't feel sprightly.
No.
No,
Catching
I'm
up
actually
to you?
in full. Well, that too. I mean, in was it full kimono? Is that what they say?
Sure.
I'm not that sound in my mind, body, and soul today.
Why? What happened?
Uh, I mean, yes. Let's talk about my personal life on Facebook Live. Really, it's mostly.
don't we always?
Yeah, I'm like not. It's like usually I talk about it when I'm like kind of been through the other side. I'm like in the thick right now. Yeah, I just don't feel like emotionally well. Just like
Gotcha.
relational stuff with same old story as before. I just don't want to put the person out over here.
Gotcha.
Hmm.
There's a sign in there for you somewhere.
Yeah, and this time keeps reading the same crap over and over again on it,
Well,
repeating the same pattern.
eventually you will see.
Yeah, and this time keeps reading the same. All right. Well, I've seen. Just what I've seen, I don't like.
How's Bali treating you?
But it's good, man. It's definitely taking me time to settle in here.
Yeah.
Um, I haven't felt that connected to community out here. I guess I haven't really um,
Been.
tried either. You know, it's kind of like it's a little bit like North County community out here. I just don't want to like have to go to yoga or ecstatic dance or meet, like any of that kind of stuff to go in community. I'm not really sure that's the kind of community I'm looking for anyway. I've seen quite a bit. I feel like this tour here for me is kind of like about learning the logistics of this place and just kind of getting around. But life changes so much from week to week as it is that like what last week looked like, I'm hoping that this week could be like completely different, and I have no idea.
Yeah.
We're traveling west today to a few beach towns. Actually, Greg and Fiona are in that town right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so hopefully I get to meet up with them. Yeah, I don't know. It's difficult to know what to expect when you come here. Like it's funny every time I travel anywhere, people always ask me the same question. They're like, "Are you excited?" My default answer is like, "I'm excited when I get there," and I'm not. Like your wife, for instance, you're going to go on vacation. You know exactly what you're getting because she'll plan every detail of every single day, mostly, right? Like I don't think you guys. So it's like I'm going here, and here's my itinerary, and you've traveled with me before, and I have like no itinerary. Not only do I not have an itinerary, I also have no idea, like because I don't do research. I don't know where I am. Like north to south is confusing most of the time. Like I don't even know where that's happening. Like I don't really look at a map. Like, and there's a lot of places here, like a lot. So for someone like me, that does create overwhelm, and at the same time, it also leads me to a lot of interesting experiences as it does. So I feel like a tourist this time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I really do feel like a tourist. And I see that people come back here often. Like this is like a yearly spot for a lot of people, so that's like it's like their secondary home, so they like have a vast knowledge of it, and even the people I'm with here do like just know everything. I'm like they know everywhere to eat and everything too, and that's awesome. Um, what I think I'm craving and what's missing for me is like I would love to travel with like 4 to 6 people here that I know really well and enjoy it that way. I think this is also it's been creeping up on me more and more. This trip has made it even that much more apparent to me, like how much I crave to have a partner with me on these
Mm-hmm.
trips and like share these experiences. It's like it's almost like I'm having half an experience, and that's really missing for me, and that's kind of led into what's my upset right now with like the old relationship. That's what I want, and I just can't seem to have that with that person. And I could totally see them like being here with me and sharing in these experiences, and she's having her experiences over there that I want to be part of and I'm not being part of, and then it's like that makes me want to be in that relationship, and that relationship is just not available. So yeah, so it's been
So
challenging, and I had
what have you learned so far?
fuck, I'm sad. Yeah, I don't know, just yesterday was just like a lot of hours of heaviness and sadness. I think for me, this morning actually, like 1:30, I woke up like a good hour plus before I wanted to, and it just occurred to me like heaviness and sadness occurs as a means of trying to understand something.
Hmm.
Like every time I get in these conversations with her, it's like the same fucking conversation. I don't even know what's going to trigger it. Like yesterday, I asked her a question, like genuinely asked a question of intrigue, and then if it like goes down this road, and it's like the same conversation we've had, like I don't know, 25 times already. And it's like my mind is like, if I could just understand, if I could just extract the right piece of information, like I could let go. And that's not the case, right? Otherwise, I would already be in that state of like that freedom and that let go, and that just hasn't been there. So I'm sitting here, and I'm like, all right, well, clearly I'm trying to think this through, not feel it through. So kind of like laid there, and I could feel like my mind, like how the mind gets, it's like wrestling, and it's like just trying to figure it out and have an agenda. And I'm like, all right, dude, not working, like not working,
Yeah.
and I'm like, okay, so like if I would just sit here and feel it, not try to put any language to it, not try to understand it, and I felt like my mind's like, okay, like my mind let go, heaviness kind of lifts, and I just started feeling things in my body start moving. And again, if like I try to define what that is, what that emotion is, and all that other stuff, it feels to just like kind of kill it. So like even just the last like 20 minutes is the first time I've like felt any sense of freedom around it, honestly. So I think I'm kind of like looking more into that. And that's been our training for the last few months anyway, and this just keeps showing up as an opportunity to do that. It's yeah, I'm not going to get into all the details about it, so I'll leave it at that for now.
Okay. Very interesting. Do you? It's interesting because it's what came up for me today in one of our coaching calls. Um, being laid up on my ass for a week, feeling, dude, honestly, like I vividly remember the last time I was in so much pain, and it was when Diego was here. Our grandfather was in America, and I remember Dad and him we were supposed to go skiing together, and I was in our old house in Fairlawn on the futon in like the computer room, and I just couldn't move. And like every time I swallowed, it was like that kind of swallowing pain where you like brace yourself for swallow every single time, and you're just like,
Yeah. Ugh.
oh, so I knew on Monday that I had strep. I just kind of thought that I could do all the samurai tricks and put enough stuff in my body and just wait till Tuesday to see if the pain dissipated or not. I'm sorry, Tuesday,
Yeah.
Wednesday. So by Tuesday I knew, and then Wednesday I woke up and it was even worse, and I was like, all right, I got to go to the doctor because the homeopathic methodology on this is not the avenue that we need to be going down right now. And during all of that stuff, I was looking at that app that we have. It's called, just find it for you people, because I know everyone's going to ask me. It's called Heal Your Body. Heal Your Body.
I have another one called Affirmations that also has that on there.
Or Affirmations, according to guys. So, and it gives you, different, like what's happening as the mind stuff. Not like, obviously everything that occurs in your body is also occurring because there's some sort of something happening in your body from a mental perspective. You're not communicating, for example, with throat, it obviously has to do with communication, holding things back, not communicating XYZ. So I was doing a lot of internal work while I was hauled up in bed, as much as you can, I guess, because at that time there's like pain is so present. When pain is there, you're just like, God, pain. And one of the things that kept coming up for me last week was acceptance, and continuously looking at what am I not accepting. And so the obvious thing when I started was accepting pain, like accepting the sensation, accepting that my body is weak, and wanting to do all these things, and just giving up that life has to look a certain way. And that I told you, I think it was on last Monday, where I walked upstairs. This was before I even knew I was really, really sick. I walked upstairs and I looked at my bed, and my body was like, I wanted to go work out. And my body was like, go lay down and take a nap. And I like 15 seconds, I was like out. So that's kind of when I knew that there was something happening in the body. And the whole week was literally just looking at what am I not accepting. And when I say not accepting, I'm talking about there's three things. There's the external, like a circumstance, right? So I'm sick, so I can't work out, circumstance. There's the someone saying something to you. So there's like the interaction with someone. And then there's the internal. So a lot of the accepting stuff for me was internal. And I was looking at like, I can't accept when my body is weak. I can't accept when I can't perform. I can't accept when I can't do the things that I want to do, and how all of this stuff was triggering so much stuff for me. I had an interesting moment with Fanny where I believe it was on Monday. It was Monday night, and I was feeling out of it, this and that. And I was actually telling Audrey this on our call today, that my wife always makes fun of me because I'm like the meme that gets passed around on Facebook, where it's like a mom who's sick and she's cleaning the house and cooking dinner and taking care of the kids and like doing all that stuff. And then a man has a sneeze or like a cough and he's like, I'm dying. So I'm one of those. And on Monday, as soon as I said like, I make this sound. I'm like a whimpering little child. And she looks at me, she goes, oh God, here we go.
Here we go.
Yeah. And totally. And the funny part was that instead of, my internal went like, what the fuck? Like, I'm sick. I feel shitty. Like, give me a little break. Instead, I did that. And then I was like, well, she's trying to communicate something to me, obviously. And what I realized was that when I feel sick, and I don't usually get sick, and when I feel sick, I just totally lay into it. I just give up, surrender, white flag. I'm like, all right, do your thing. And she actually stopped me kind of dead in my tracks. And I was like, all right, I could choose to do that. I kind of know how that plays out, or I could choose to be another way. So Tuesday was the roughest day. I just couldn't get out of bed. I was literally like napping 3-4 times that day. But Wednesday, I like got myself up, showered, drove myself to the doctor. My son I got diagnosed with strep. Then my son at the same time, his school called that he got diagnosed with strep. Or that he was feeling bad. So I drove him back to the doctor, got him tested. He got strep. So I was like in the car, moving, shaking, doing all this stuff. And I was like, oh, it's interesting that I can have strep and still somewhat function versus just like, I can't do anything.
I'm laid out. Yeah.
And I think a lot of that happened from the fact of just accepting that my body is going to be going through some stuff, accepting that I'm going to have this horrendous throat pain, accepting that this is what this week's going to look like. And instead of doing all this awesome stuff that I had lined up for work, I'm just out. And it gave me a lot of freedom inside of that world. So it was an interesting week. And I'm happy to say that after a week like that, being back on Monday and working, honestly, I was so excited yesterday to like get back to it. It was an interesting week at the Ferdman household for sure.
Yeah, it was interesting for me too. The timing of everything. Like I was in BC and I got sick over there a little bit, and I saw some old patterning too, like all these beliefs around when the weather changes, like when temperatures change really quickly. I have a history of bronchitis from going back like really young. And it starts like a small sore throat. It ends up being like an upper respiratory infection. It's the same shit every single time. Like I can like mark the days, like step 1, the step 2, and it always like it's funny how sore throats happen. It's like there's nothing, and then there's like that little tickle in the back of your mind goes, is that a sore throat? Like, and you're like, nah, that's not a sore throat. And then like an hour later, you're like, fuck, that's a sore throat. And it starts that whole process. What was interesting to me was I was Colombia. I got to Bali.
Where am I again?
Symptoms. I don't even know anymore. Like, I need an adult in my life. I think. I think it's time for one of those. Like somebody needs to adult this thing. So I get here and I have a lot of those same symptoms. Like my nose has been running like since I got here. The sore throat I actually killed dead, or I just believed my way out of it. Who knows? What was interesting was like for those of you guys that don't know, like I'm 15 hours ahead of the West Coast. I'm 12 hours ahead of Elon. So like it's 3 p.m. over there. It's 3 a.m. here. So all these Facebook Lives, like 2-3 coaching calls per day, marketing training, our group coaching, like I'm talking like 3-4 hours a night that I have to wake up, be on these things, be present. In the spare moments I have, I try to like go back into bed and like rustle in there for like an hour, then wake up at like 7 o'clock in the morning, work out, stretch, go back to work, like have a full day in Bali, and then like back to bed by like between 9 and 11. And that's been my life since I've been here. I don't enjoy pushing myself quite this hard, but I've had to. And the funny part was like in a week where I would need support from you more than ever, like Tuesday to Friday, I was basically like on my own, like working my ass off, and it created some really strange phenomenons. Like I'm not even, it's weird. I'm not even jet lagged because of the work schedule.
Oh, because you've kept the work schedule.
It's been really odd, and I don't know, like I just didn't experience a lot of jet lag since I got here. Yeah, so it is what it is, but it was just interesting for me too that happened. I'm like, okay, well, that's interesting that showed up. I'm like, let's look at that. And yeah, there's really no make wrong. I enjoyed what I enjoyed. It's been difficult at times. It's been great at other times. It's an interesting hour to be working, I have to say. Like it's a really different energy that's available at this time of night. So yeah, it's been interesting for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the epitome of everything was the Facebook Kickstarter call, where that was my just horrid pain of all sorts, and that was before I even knew I had strep. It was just kind of like this everything. I just felt like it's interesting when you're so in tune to your body, you could just feel it happen from so far away. And the weird part is I didn't get a fever throughout the entire time. Like never did my fever spike. And maybe that was thanks to like all the homeopathic and God knows what else I put in my body. And I still felt, like when you have the flu and your back hurts, like where your kidneys are and your hands are all like puffy and moving hurts. So it was just this weird, I'm like, how can I feel this shitty? Like I don't have a fever. And so I'm just like mind games with myself. But that Kickstarter call was when I just took that, I showed you guys on video. I was like, man, I'm here physically. I'm just not here at all.
Not here.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. This was one of the first times I remember though, while it was happening, that I was more interested in the belief systems than I was in the sensation of it. Cause I'm like, how many times has this happened before? I'm like, I know this programming so well. It's been around for so long and I have so much justification for it. And to just be like, you know what? Forget feeling good or bad. I'm more interested in transforming the stories. I'm like, this will pass as it does. Like you getting strep that way and and all this stuff. It's all tied to a story. Like as long as I've known you, I've watched you respond to being sick that way. Like that's associated with something. Yep. And for me, it's the same thing. I'm like looking at it, I'm like, wow, I genuinely know that there's, even if it's not conscious for me, like I'll get off a plane. I'm like, and there's a little part of me that's like, oh, it's cooling down. Oh, it's heating up. Like, and I know there's a part of me paying attention to that. And it's not like I have to talk about it or even create it, but there's a part of me that's like always at the effect of that environment. Right. And then it's like all the other stories that come into play around it. So I was like, well, that's really interesting. Like I've never been like, oh, like what other story could I have about weather changing quickly? Like, or I'm like, it's just a story. And I know that I believe that. Like it's not,
and your brain takes care of the rest.
Totally. It's never been a question as to whether or not I believe that. It's like, okay, well, he believes that this is the time to lower the immunity. Like, let's lower the immunity. Like, it's all that shit. And I'm like, wow, I don't have to do that anymore.
Yep.
So it was engaging for me in that way and interesting. And the other funny part is the last time I was sick that way was when I was with the people that I'm with right now.
Huh.
This happened when I was in Colombia a year and a half ago. And that was the last time I was sick that way. Same exact thing. And I'm like, it's so interesting. Like the body now has that, like I'm here with these guys, like you don't even know. And yeah, exactly. Like you have really, we have a lack of attunement on what's creating, bodily sensations. And really that's all it is. Again, we talk about that all the time, but it seems to be all it is.
Yeah. It was, after reading You Are the Placebo and things like that, just noticing the sensations in the body. It's kind of like the analogy, I don't know if people have seen the videos or have been to San Francisco. More often than not, on every single night, there's this like thick ass fog that just rolls down. And it's like it literally rolls down over the mountains, down into the water, and then just kind of like envelops the city. And you could just see it coming. It's amazing.
I'm sorry, what city is this?
Say it again? San Fran.
Oh, okay, yeah, of course.
Yeah. So I find now that because of You Are the Placebo, that sense of body is like that fog coming off on the horizon. Like you have a lot more time to interact with it before the system comes in and goes, this is what this means. So just noticing all of these stuff, like the reason I went to take a nap is just because I noticed the sensation in the body. And I knew like at that moment, I could have easily gone and worked out and pushed myself. I could have put, B12 in my system, or I could have taken a caffeine pill or whatever. And I would have been right as rain. And I would have just like plowed through that. And something inside was just like, you need to take a nap.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the stuff that I haven't, prior to reading that book, been super conscious of. And now it's just like noticing these sensations in everything. And it's if someone says something or I'm in a situation, the first thing Guy and I teach us in our Have It All Academy and our Have It All Live is that there are levels to the communications. So the first level is your subconscious. That first actually communicates with your body. So the first thing that you're going to get is some sort of twinge or tick or sensation of some sort in the body. Then that body ties that sensation to some sort of emotion. Like, I'm nervous, I'm in pain, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm scared, whatever it is, right? That emotion then will create your thought, and then that thought will eventually become word, and then that word will eventually become action. So if you're looking at that scale, by the time you've spoken a word, that's already 5 levels. That's why our coaching I find to be very, very effective, is because when you're speaking, you're generally unconscious to what is coming out of your mouth. Mm-hmm. Guy and I have been trained to know that that word is associated with all of this stuff below, right? What we're looking to do is, what is the programming that's created that conversation? And because you're unaware of it, that's where we come in. So noticing more and more that first level, right? Like when your subconscious kicks a little thing up and then that communicates with your body, and just examining and being in an inquiry of, well, what is this sensation? Is it just a sensation? Or like Guy said, like, my program makes this sensation mean X, Y, and Z, because that's the autopilot part. And if you could actually like roll it back and go, well, is that true? Or is it just a sensation? And it was a lot of that, especially when you're sick. Like, I feel like you get in tune to your body, not necessarily for most people in a good way. For me, it was just interesting to notice like the different sensations, noticing how certain sensations lead to you being like, for me, I get pissy when I'm sick. I get pissy. Everyone annoys me, all this stuff. And so I could feel that stuff in the body, like arising. And then instead of reacting the way that I normally react, I just had that space to be like, okay, you're sick. You're having this sensation. This person is not trying to annoy you. You're responding a certain way. Is this how you choose to respond? And I honestly, like, as seriously as my ass got kicked, like, I didn't let it affect the way my kids interact with me. And I didn't get short. When I was tired, I would just say, like, look, I'm tired. I need to kind of do my own thing for a bit. It was very different. A good lesson.
Yeah, I think everything we're pointing to here is just about really just tuning in to, I would say, like the deeper levels of everything, right? Both in the body and the mind. It's the same thing when we're upset, or like Yellen said, when we do coaching, if I ask you what's going on, your initial response, 98% of the time, I know is not really what's going on there. That response is the unexamined one. It's the knee jerk, the I don't have time, I don't have money responses that people don't really investigate any further than that. And I think that really goes down the line for every single area of our lives. What's going on for me right now is what was happening for me in the beginning of the year too. It's like this woman that I'm madly and deeply in love with, and whatever, I can give you guys a whole laundry list of reasons. That's actually pretty short now, laundry list of reasons why we're not together. We love each other a lot. And that just causes a lot of pain. And then these conversations pop up kind of like seemingly out of nowhere, where it's like, I engage in a question and it becomes like the same old rigmarole of like, what are we doing that together again? Mm-hmm. And yeah, there's just this like clarity of it's not time. I think that we both have clarity on that. And for us to be engaged in that kind of relationship together. And then I'm like fighting for this thing, and I feel very much the victim of it and like out of control, and which is so unlike me these days to give away my power that way. And then I wonder about that actually sometimes. Maybe I could pose this question too as somebody who's been married for a while. You know, with love, it's funny because it's like a really empowering thing. And then at the same time, like part of the vulnerability is that like I'm giving myself over to you, you know, and it's not like you're the source of my happiness. Like I don't look at relationships that way. It's like kind of like I'm happy and I'm complete over here, but it's like a bonus. And then I'm like, well, there's this like upset here. As if life won't be as joyful without this person in it, you know?
Is that
Um,
true?
no, exactly, right? Like I know that's not true. So it's funny to me because like it's not funny, it's just interesting to look at that it's one of the few areas I look at and I'm like, damn, I'm like a fucking victim in this thing. You know, like
Mm.
it's something is happening to me. She's not doing anything to me. More or less, you know, about as much clarity as I've ever wanted inside of the world of communication I'm getting from her. Um, it's like one of those situations that I feel like if, you know, and it's kind of, I think where it came to yesterday, if it was like a clear no from her, I'd be like, okay, great. Like it's a no, like, you know, there's nothing here, but there's always like a no with like a door is kind of open type
Hmm.
of scenario. And that door kind of open leaves me in the state of like hope. Um, and she's a, you know, for me, if you guys know me well enough, for those of you guys who know me well enough, obviously know that we're pretty committed to growth. So like if I'm with somebody, it's a priority for them as well, which means I'm like, the conversation in the background is like, oh, there's like a breakthrough will solve this. It's true, like, you know, because and a lot of her breakthroughs around relationships and stuff that happened to her when she was a kid and her experience of love and like things she does when she like abandonment issues or like abandoning first, not getting abandoned. And it's funny because like when I see that, I'm like, oh, good. I'm like, that's a great breakthrough for her to have for us to be together. That, you know, just like completely candidly. And then, you know, I look at past relationships where it was like that too. You know, my former where it was like she would go on these experiences and have these breakthroughs, and for the challenges we were having in the relationship, I'm like, oh good, that's the breakthrough that will solve this. But it never did. So it's like part of it is just, you know, like really giving it up to source and God and saying like, okay, this is, I believe in the perfection of everything, and it's not time. That doesn't mean that it's not painful at some extent. I think just to keep talking into it, and you guys are basically watching me coach myself, or Elon coach me soon enough. And I've been down this road so many times. It just like cycles. And I'm like, dude, how many times do you have to go down this road? The other thing is for me, like
As
what
many
shows up
times as it takes.
as many times as it takes. The other thing that shows up for me is she's like really into her faith and she's Christian and stuff like that. And like I know she loves me, right? Like I know she loves me and I love her, like really over the top, holy mad wow, love this woman. And then when she can like disassociate from it, it makes me like angry at faith. I'm like, you know, the fact that it's like, okay, well, faith is doing this, and it's like my mind gets into like my silly human brain goes into like I don't understand a faith, like someone's faith that they can detach from those kind of feelings and just be like choose the faith over the love. And that's for me, it's like faith is love, love is faith. It's all like interconnected for me. So it's like really difficult for me to say like, okay, well, let's detach these two things. And I'm not gonna allow myself to have this. At the same time, I have to fucking respect it. I always have with her that she can find that truth eventually. Yeah, I don't know. I'm rambling now.
So can I offer you a couple of things?
Yeah, of course.
So first, it reminded me like when you're with we're trying not to use names, right? So with your
Yeah, just,
former
yeah.
two extra removed. I remember when you were even in conversation about ending that relationship, there was so much doubt about because she and still is like a 1 in a billion. Like
Yeah.
she just is. I mean, and I remember you even using those words like she's not 1 in a million, she's like 1 in a billion. And
Mm-hmm.
what the fuck am I gonna do? And how the fuck is like I'm this is like this dumbest thing. Like, why would I leave something like that? What the heck is, what the heck else am I going to find that's out there? And then life, in its funny and sometimes mysterious ways, had already shown you your now former while you were together before. Right? You with me? No?
Yeah. I'm nodding. Oh yeah, you can't see me. I'm nodding.
No. So, one, I just want to point out that the conversation, to look at the conversation that's having you scared of fully surrendering into what is possible and who is possible and all that stuff, is a young conversation. It's, you know, like when you see in the movies where a kid in high school gets his heart broken and he's like devastated and can't get off the couch and eating ice cream or smoking weed or whatever it is, because they're like, my life is over, my life is over. I'm using that example specifically because I wanted to take it to the extreme. I know you're not that way at all. I'm just saying, like, it's that kind of young conversation about love. So just something to take a look at, that in the world, especially that we're living in now, more than ever, I think, of truly surrendering and allowing for life to show us the path. If there were no idea of what your future should look like, none of this would be there. Like if you were just fully in the present moment of how I want to feel around love and relationships, because what's happening is your silly brain just is going into projecting, right? Like, this is what my future should look like. I should travel with this person. Da, 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 da. And then obviously that's creating some fabricated whatever version of a future that may never ever come, and yet you're living at the effect of it today, instead of being in the present moment of just what is and allowing for.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's definitely the upset's definitely from some kind of expectation. It's been interesting because, like, you know, I've been out of San Diego for like 16 days now. We kind of like left it with, okay, like, it is what it is, and, you know, like, it'll be good to have this space anyway, to like not be in each other's space and just kind of like get that break from it, and then, you know, see it a little bit more objectively. And that was like my question. I'm like, oh, so how do you know, like, that's what started up the whole conversation. It was like, so, you know, how do you feel like having not been in a relationship? And of course it just went down the same fucking path it always does. So I felt like an idiot. I think in essence, look, when you're, one of the things that's always bothered me when I talk to people about love is like when they're like, well, I don't want to get hurt. I'm like, it's kind of what has to be on the table for you to fully be in it, you know? So, you know, it's like, what else do you expect? Like, you know, being vulnerable with somebody for me is a prerequisite to love. And it's like, vulnerability means I'm being vulnerable. like there's no, my skin's exposed. Right. And I kind of know that going in with her, that it's like a gamble every time. And yet for some reason, it always seems like the gamble is worth it for the opportunity that I see that's there. And, do I want to feel this way? Of course not. Is the upset coming from like wanting a specific outcome that's not there? Of course it is. You know, like, I've already gone through a lot of the heartache that I went through last time. This time is just a little bit of like sadness and heaviness, that it's kind of like, it's strange. Cause like, I've never been, you know, I've always been the type of person that I thought it was foolish to go backwards in relationships. Like, always, like, if I saw my friends doing that, I'm like, oh God, you know, like, rinse, cycle, repeat, and
never go the slide back.
Never go the slide back. And yet here I am with this person doing that, like, to the point where I don't know that I could not do that. Like, I wanna believe that if she would come back again and be like, hey, you know, let's give it a go, that I would have enough wherewithal to be like, nope. Sorry, I already know how this train's gonna go. And yet a part of me knows that, like, she could come back at any time, and I'd be like, okay. Just because I do feel that. And the other funny part is, for me, is like, so if I logic into this, it's so funny to be talking about this in public this way, but why not?
People are getting tons of value just from you probably sharing this.
I hope so. the other part is like if I do my list thing, like let me look at the list of things that are, I would want for ideally in a partner. There are some things that are not a match for me. And I think that's how it occurs for her too. It's like this 99% there, and then this like thing that's missing that is just important enough for her not say yes to it. And for me, I'd have to say it's a little bit of that too. Like at least in this time period in our lives, it's like that 99%. And then I'm like, I know what you're probably going to say because you've been married for 10 years to the love of your life. But it's like, that 100% is elusive, or has been in my life for sure. And it's just funny to look at because I know you're going to be like, well, when you meet the one, and it's like, well, I guess
single person on this live or even on the recording, I'd love to hear from you guys. Like anyone who's actually with the one will tell you the same cliche, and it's a cliche for a reason.
Yeah. So, I kind of like know that, but it's like knowing about it's same that we talk about like balance or gravity, but like having not been in that experience with somebody, it's like, all right, well, I guess we'll wait till it's 100.
I mean, for me, not that this is in the same realm. It's just, I think you'll associate with the feeling I have around this subject as and can take it as that. Like, I want to move, and I want to move very, very badly.
Move
Move
from New York?
Move out of New York.
Okay.
Right. So, and that my speaking about moving to California has definitely caused some agita with Fanny and her family and all this kind of stuff. Right. So it was actually so couple things. One, we had an amazing conversation with Marcy, and she said all of this, and I just couldn't hear it at that time. What she was basically saying is that I'm trying to force an outcome instead of being in the flow and dealing with what's in front of me and letting it unwind the way it's meant to unwind. And because I'm forcing this outcome, it's creating all of this tension from all these other people around me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get it to this level till I had the reading with Anna. And what Anna said to me, because I asked about moving, and basically she was like, there's some stuff that needs to align with Fanny and her family and things like that. And ultimately she's like, you guys will be on a road trip and your kids will actually choose. Like they'll say, we want to move. And more specifically, they'll be like, we want to live in this house. And again, like all of these readings, I'm always reminded that you hear what you need to hear at that moment. It's not like someone predicting the future or I don't see it like that. It's just what your soul needs to hear at that moment. And I'll tell you, after that conversation, my whole thing around moving has been so gone, not from the standpoint of I don't want to move. I'm still absolutely intending and creating that we move in the next 2-3 years. And I've given up any, and I mean truly any conversation around where or when or how or what it needs to look, all of it. Like, because what I've come to is that right now, if I were being honest, in our relationship, Elon is 100% set on moving to California. No one else in my family is.
That's not true. There's one person in your family that is.
True. But like, the kids would happily move to California. And my wife is like, she's got a lot of trepidation around that. And so I'm of the belief now that when we as a family unit end up at some location, we will all know. Kind of like with love, like when we will all feel that pull, and then it will be effortless. Because look at our lives over the last few months, right? Everything that's been amazing, just like breakthrough, monumental, fucking unbelievable results, hasn't it felt effortless?
Mm-hmm.
Like the perfect people, the perfect opportunity. It just like, you just feel like you're kind of like dancing on a cloud, and it's just kind of like leading you to the next, to the next, to the next. So I'm like, okay, well, if that's my experience, then I choose to have that experience in this area as well. I don't want the force. I don't want the figuring shit out. I don't want the like heartache of trying to convince someone or strategize. I just know. I know that we're moving. Like, I have no doubt, because in my core, it's already happened. It just, all the tension around it is gone.
Mm-hmm. Well, so an interesting thought for me. So that's very aligned with my experience right now too, right? Like there's like this like fight happening of trying to create this outcome, which is just fucking sapping my energy, like to no end, and like removing joy. And it's not like the circumstance is like the outcome of doing me doing that to myself is doing that to me. So it's funny because it's like I think we perceive that we gain power by controlling and manipulating outcomes.
Yes.
And it's like, no, we actually like lose power by trying to control and manipulate. In fact, when you surrender to experiences is when you feel the most empowered.
Exactly.
And that's definitely what, like, part of what's happening here is just like an inability to see the perfection in it. And look, last time this happened, you know, some of the most amazing experiences of my entire life unfolded the moment that I was like declaring freedom around it, basically, which is kind of what you've done with the move. It's like I just declare myself free, and however it looks without any attachment, right?
And she showed up. When you declared freedom the first time from your former.
Oh no. I mean, I'm like going back this January.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, February, March, even going into April was probably like energistically like my 2.5 favorite months of my entire life. And it's funny, when this came back in is when a lot of that, I don't want to say deteriorated. It was I'm sure there's other stuff going on too, but like that swirl for me kind of stopped. And it's just definitely something to notice. And, you know, like Marcy had mentioned about like experiences that look like light on the front that actually are darkness. And, you know, and if it's like, if I really check in, like energistically, yeah, this is just fucking with me. And if I'm like living my life from a fuck yes, and only if it feels good do I take that action, it's not aligned. And it's funny that I know this consciously, and yet I choose against it often and consistently, because for the moments where it does feel good, it feels amazing. And then this is always on the back end of it. Yeah, it is in its own way. And then on the back end of it is always this like, all right, well, it's really good, and like, are we going to turn it into something, you know? So yeah, we've kind of been down this road a bunch of times together, and yeah, I definitely need to. Well, I am choosing, you know, not to be having that experience anymore.
Yeah, there's a lot of also mind space. So when you're in that place, right, like if you have a tank of energy to create and manifest, and then a lot of that is being depleted on trying to strategize how to create and quote unquote force an outcome, you're basically depleting the tank of all this amazing juju that could create and allow for all this other amazing stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look, I mean, it doesn't necessarily even look like this is at an end. It's just like you know, if it feels flowy and if it feels good and if it gets to that place, then great. And if it doesn't, like, I know you saying that doesn't mean that you don't want to move and would love to be in California. You know,
I would love to be in California. Yeah. It's just at this point, I realize that, like, okay, I have this vision, right? In the words of Alex Ferdman, I have a vision, and that vision is to live in San Diego and raise my kids there and all that stuff. Because when I'm there, my heart just sings. It vibrates.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing. It doesn't for Fanny.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, I'm I would feel horrible once I finally let myself hear that. Because at first I was in denial. I was like, what are you talking about? You love sun and you love beach and you'd be retired. Like what, because it's my world. Yeah. And then as soon as I allowed myself to hear her and where she's at and her concern and all that stuff, and that her body is not a fuck yes to living in San Diego, at least for now, right? Then it would be super selfish and inconsiderate of me to even attempt to create a strategy and a plan. And here's what I know. My wife is a master manifester. And like when we're aligned, we manifest and create things super fast. So it would almost be like me trying to undertake this thing of forcing this outcome while she's literally behind me, like pulling me back, and me trying to like chug this thing and muscle this thing and like making it great for everyone. And all the while it's sapping my energy, my creative energy, my manifesting energy, my just excitement for life. Like I had all these stupid conversations like, why aren't you supporting this idea? We should be on the same team. Like all this fucking nonsense justifications, right? And as soon as I let that go, there's just freedom and silence and peace. And when it happens, it happens. And for me right now, like I'm even looking at alternative schools for Shia here because for now we're here, and so I'm not like putting everything that I want on hold until we make a move. Like I can still do the things that I'm intending as like, here's how I'd like to raise my children, and do them here instead of just like, we're going to put our lives on pause. And then, in 2-3 years, we're going to figure everything out. Like, fuck that.
Yeah. More of the someday
exactly.
Monday conversations. Yeah.
There's no fucking someday.
Isn't it interesting how like the same patterns show up over and over again and just different areas of life where you have yet to fully disseminate or break through in that particular circumstance. Like those lessons have not been applied in this small area of life, and then that lesson needs to be relearned for this particular segment of life, and then that lesson needs to be learned for this particular segment of life. It's like I honestly can't think of anywhere else in my life where I have this like helplessness outside of like love relationships, and then I've been like really empowered in that relationship, and then like all like all these amazing people showed up in my life, and then like backtracking to go to it, and it's like I've literally never played this game before. Like I said, like I've never been the one to like go back in relationships, and I think that actually like shows the value that I think is there, because I'm willing to keep like, all right, like back into the lines then, like hopefully the line doesn't fucking kill me this time, and just like gambling that. And I can't say that I wouldn't do that again, honestly. But we'll see. Like I definitely feel like there's something for me to look at in a way of loving myself that I haven't done yet before, like in a new level that this is giving access to. I don't really quite have language for that yet, but like I know that feeling of like neediness, which is strange in the circumstance. Like if you actually know this like situation like between us, that like I'm the one that's doing a lot of chasing. So it's not like neediness, but I think you guys know what I mean. That that's there for me. Like there's not power around that, right? Because if I was really standing in my power, then I'd be like, you're right, this isn't a good fit right now. And I have that like consciously, and I've been in that space before where I like trust that much. I'm like, okay, yeah, like I do trust in the perfection of things. And just giving up the fight, like everywhere, just everywhere, like every area where you're fighting, just being like, all right, like surrender is not being applied.
Yeah. It's always surrender. And you've been saying more and more, which I really like recently, that there is no going back. That like in life, there's just no back. There's no going back to anything. You're always moving forward. And even if something looks and feels the same, it's not the same. You're not the same. It can't possibly be the same. So I would just say, like, instead of having that mentality of like, I'm going to go back there and bring you here, it's like, what if you just forged ahead and be the best version of yourself, and then just see what is magnetized to you up there. Versus like doing that thing. And just see what that feels like.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to be mindful of for sure. Yeah, I have to kind of agree with that. I think again, like with the going back phenomenon, it's a lot like walking to a room and seeing the same shit, or it's the brain just being lazy and conserving energy.
Exactly.
So it's like, okay, well, this looks similar, so let's just repattern what we've done before, and truly, like, nothing can ever be the same than it was just a moment ago. Like, that moment's already past, it's done, and this moment is totally new.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's one of these situations that just keeps catching me off guard. I don't know if I mentioned it before, but like I haven't been spending the last 16 days thinking about it. Like there's been almost like no thought about it at all. And then I was like, oh, I just like kind of like miss having a conversation with her. It's been like a few weeks, and so I like called her up, and then it was just like right back in the conversation. I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, man! I'm like let this shit go,
You're
and
like S&M, emotional S&M.
Yeah, no, I'm like literally like watching myself from the side, like having this like out of body experience. I'm like, how are we doing this again? Like, what are you trying to extract from this that you already haven't extracted from this? I'm like, where is this going to possibly go? And like, and it doesn't make me feel good, and it doesn't make her feel good, like, because she's like, she knows she loves me, and it's like, hey, look, I how many times am I going to tell you I love you?
Yeah.
And like, this is what's going on. And like, God bless her for having the patience to like reaffirm that every fucking time. Because yeah, that's just like, it just all these like old wounds. And it's funny, like I've been here with, I went to like an Ayurvedic doctor, and this woman, like people do this with me a lot. They just like, they're like, can I read you? This happens like once a month. Like somebody wants to like just read me, and like, then they send me like this reading and blah, blah, blah. And everybody's been pointing to Israel recently, and like leaving there, and like the trauma that's caused. And the woman said something to me in the message, and it was so spot on to something I had just said, like verbatim what I had just said, to the point where I wrote her back. I'm like, did I say that to you, or did you just pull that out of the ethos? And I haven't gotten the response yet, but I'm fairly certain she pulled that out of the ethos.
Wow.
And I'm like a sentence I just said not too long ago. And I'm like, damn, okay, like I need to be paying attention, because I'm giving a lot of signs around just like emotional not well-being from that time period. And that started with Anna too, and I've like known that. Yeah, but there just seems to be all this like sort of hurt around leaving Israel. Anna said it was like a guillotine for me, like at that age.
Yeah, I remember she said that.
So there's like, I think I look at my whole life, and I've done what she's doing, which is like I abandoned before I get abandoned.
Self-preservation.
Right. So with her, interesting. Yeah, this is kind of clicking in for me. She's doing the thing that I do or have done, which of course activates all my own shit about doing that. That's interesting. So yeah, and I'm like, and it's kind of funny for me, because it's like I've stopped that patterning. Like I don't do that anymore. And yet now that it's being done to me, or, seemingly being done to me, nothing's being done to me. How I think that's just triggering all that old stuff for me again. Yeah. On the opposite side of the coin.
That's awesome.
So, but it's interesting. It's like, it's a great opportunity to get whole and complete about it from both sides, both doing it and it being done to me. And not having a concern for it, because like now it's like triggering concerns of abandonment, like, and all that kind of stuff. So that was interesting. I hadn't had that thought before.
Yeah, it's all perfect. I keep going back to that line. If it was meant to be, it will be so.
That's what they tell me.
Broski, I love you.
Huh?
I said I love you.
Oh, I love you too.
That was awesome. And thank you for sharing and being so vulnerable and being open and working through it in this setting. It was amazing to watch.
Yeah, I before I got on here, I was like, can I even get on here today and like actually like be in an empowered place? And I'm like, do I want to talk about this? I think honestly, for humanity as a whole and for the game we're playing, it's kind of an injustice not to share these things with people. If anybody's dealing with something in their life, like what I've learned is if I come on here, and I try to hide this stuff, I'm fucked. Like I'll be strange and awkward, and people will be like, "What the fuck is wrong with Guy today?" And I think like as humanity for the transformation that I think a lot of us are seeking, not right or wrong, just the transformation we're seeking and growth that we want. Uh, I honestly think this is part of what's the requirement is like just laying everything on the table for everybody at our humanity and stopping the process of making all this stuff wrong or like moving towards a space where we make this all right. I don't have shame about sharing it, like nothing like that. It's not comfortable, and at the same time, it's like this is life, right? Like if I'm not your fucking guru. I'm not. I'm a person dealing with all the same shit, and like you guys see, like Elon and I are looking for empowered conversations around situations that are difficult, and more than anything is like being in a feeling that's in alignment with our true purpose, ultimately. So it's like I think this was cool because you kind of got to see the logic part of it, and transforming stories, and also like the feel, because honestly what's giving me more reprieve and release than anything is I woke up like an hour before I had to, and I was laying in bed and I just got that my mind is like frantically trying to figure this out. And I've never been able to get any peace from figuring anything out in my life ever. Like I've been depressed and suicidal. I sat there for years trying to figure that shit out, and like there's zero reprieve. And then I was like, I don't know. I'm like, I'm not feeling when I'm trying to understand. So I was like, all right, just get into the feel. I got into my body, and like I just feel my mind just, it's like feels like it's getting like pushed together, and then it just like released. And there was space suddenly, and then like all this shit started happening in my body, and then it's like the mind wants to like, oh, what's happening in the body? And I'm like, let that go. Like it doesn't matter what's happening in the body. I'm like, there's just something happening in the body. Like something is moving that wasn't moving a minute ago. And notice like how often understanding holds it all in place. It makes energy very static and immobile. And then like I let go and I start feeling like this energy moving through my body. So it's this really fun phenomenon to kind of play with, and that's kind of my intention is to feel more, think less.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Super proud of
you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Love you. That was a pretty amazing conversation. I'm glad you guys got to be a part of that. And if you got value out of this, I know this was kind of we got deep fast. Then share this, please. If you know someone that's dealing with this, has dealt with this, needs power around this, share this experience with them. We'd be honored to make that kind of impact with them. And are we doing one on Wednesday?
I need to see what my internet connection looks like in this beach town, so I'll let you know as soon as I can.
Okay, sounds great. All right, Broski, love you.
All right, man. Love you
too. Bye,
too.
everyone. Thanks for being here.
Bye, everybody.